So, welcome everyone. My name is Star. Today we belatedly celebrate the United Nations Global Day of Parents. This day is celebrated annually on June the 1st. It is our opportunity to appreciate parents and to appreciate the vital role we all play in shaping the lives of children. This is not a child safety discussion, it's a family and community discussion. To begin the forum, I invite Patrick Cobbo to do Acknowledgement of Country.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd just like to obviously welcome everybody. Today is the day that I've been reflecting about on, I suppose, my life as well as the community in general. Last week we had our Parents' Day over in the city, and it didn't dawn on me till yesterday when I was reflecting about my past. I talked about, most of the people didn't know that I was a bull rider back in those days, and I went to America to rodeo school, and this week happens to be 40 years since I did that flight, or I suppose that opportunity to go to University of Texas for the rodeo school. So it just gave me a bit of time to reflect on past, present, and emerging. As for the past, well, my past, as I said, I grew up under the Act. The Act is the Doggett Act. I lived on the reserve, Sherby, until 1985, and then I had the freedom to move around, so to speak. So in 86, I didn't have to apply to the Queensland government for permission to go to America. So, that's only 40 years ago. So I lived under the Act. I had to have a permit to walk within a township and all that. So that's the past, and also in regards to the past as well. My family members, my old man, his two brothers served their country. And I had a lot of hatred and bitterness towards the government, even white people themselves. Because my old man and his brothers, they fought beside these guys. When they went back home, they were treated like crap. And I'll say it because I lived it, I saw it, I read it. My old man and his two brothers, they found it hard dealing with their so-called friends out in the trenches. Or when they came back home to Australia, or even in their own community of Megan, they were strangers. So that's a bit of past that I reflect on. And as for present, well, I see myself as a leader, which I know I am, because I've been given that role from the age of 12 within my clan group to speak on behalf of my family group. And I'm the baby of 13. Now, a lot of my older brothers were a bit upset that I was given the role of future leader. So I'm a leader, and I've always been the leader of my clan group. But that's something that's been handed down to me from my days when I was taught to be a leader within our clan group. So that's for the future. Well, that future part, I'm trying to obviously strengthen us in regards to strengthening our families and keeping our families together. Whether you're black, white, or brindle, we all got to work together to have a decent environment for our children to grow up into a better place, And as I said, as I reflect as well, I need to look into my own heart as well, because sometimes I get a bit angry towards different cultures, why they bring their stuff into Australia. Now, a lot of the stuff that they bring in isn't part of Australian culture, but it's something we have to adapt to. But anyway, in saying that, that's what I just want to reflect on in regards to my side of past, present, and emerging. And as I said, I will pay acknowledgement to the traditional owners. I don't want to go into the different clan groups, but like I said, as I said last week, and I'll continue to say it, I have connections here. on my hat is 2 boomerangs. I'm the only one who has those, and it was made by me, especially for me, to prove my connections to country. I may not have blood connection to this country, but I have blood connections around this country. Whether you're going into Bow Desert, Ballinjali, go across Stradbroke, go to Kabi Kabi, you go Waka Waka, you go Butcherborough. All of those areas are all marked on my umbrellas, on my boomerangs, as a symbol of my clan groups coming together, which form, obviously, Brisbane, Meanjin, and on my sleeve, I carry the bunya tree. Well, the bunya tree within the southern area of Queensland is classed as unity. And if you go in between, my strong family connection is to the Bunya Mountains. And we also have, as I said, I've got connections down here. And the only place where the viable connection is the showgrounds, exhibition grounds. That was part of a boring. So from the Bunya Mountains, every 4 years, between Bunya Mountains, and that's when you come to the exhibition grounds, that's where you share your knowledge and share your customs and whatever. But as I said, I pay respect to the traditional owners, but as I said, I do have strong connection around here as well. But as someone who's strong in my culture, you know, I love to share it with anybody. I haven't got a closed door policy, so to speak. And I'm not one of those 9 to 5. My door is open 24/7. But look, anybody, have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. And hopefully we can reflect on moving forward for Harmony Day and obviously keeping our families together. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Patrick. Very powerful words as always. Before I do some acknowledgements, I'd like to let you know a little bit about me. As I said, my name is Star. I've been a member of FIN for about 3 years. This is my 3rd Global Day of Parents, and I'm both very nervous and proud to be your MC this morning. I would like to welcome all parents in this room and online. We are all here for our children. I acknowledge Belinda Drew, the Director General of the Department of Families, Seniors, Disability Services and Child Safety, and I acknowledge my fellow members of the Queensland Parents Advisory Committee and the committee alumni members here today. I acknowledge funding from the Queensland Government's Department of Child Safety. And 2 pointers to begin this forum. First, our agenda will go up on the screen in a moment, and it's also available via Menti with the meeting code or QR. You can access this via www.menti.com and entering the code 23425908. And second, our creativity. You will see a series of fabulous pencil drawings on the table. For those online, you will see these drawings later on menti.com. These powerful drawings have been created by a FIN member, and we will hear from him later in the session. And now it's time for conversation. I was very excited to hear that we had another Global Day of Parents fishbowl conversation this year. This is where we eavesdrop into a discussion where parents and allies are talking about their advocacy work. To begin, let me introduce you to our narrator, Marnie.
Thank you, Star. So here we are, 5 experts sitting around a table, 5 different people bringing different perspectives and different life experiences. They're all committed to improving the lives of children and their families. They share an interest in the unique position of parents to improve not only the lives of their own children, but the lives of all children, by working together for parents and working together with parents. Beck is a First Nations mum of 5, a member of the Queensland Parents Advisory Committee, and completed parent advocacy training in 2023. Chloe is a FIN member and a mum of 3, completed parent advocacy training in 2025. Tennille is a FIN member and a mum of 6, completed parent advocacy training in 2025 too. Vivian is General Manager, Individual and Family Support for Uniting Care. Carissa is Director of Services for Queensland Foster and Kinship Care. So what a privilege it is for all of us to observe to absorb this fishbowl discussion between these experts. Let's get comfortable as we sit on the outside looking in, listening carefully, seeking to understand each of their thoughts, experiences, and ideas for how the system, all parts of the system, organisations, governments, can work with parents. We'll get our chance to share our own expertise and engage in the discussion a little later. So maybe note your own thoughts and ideas that surface while you listen.
I became involved with Finn as I know personally how important it is to have a parent with lived experience to walk alongside you. Chloe, have you had, how did you become involved with Finn?
I'm so glad you asked, Beck. It's ironic, actually. A few years ago, I was advocating for a parent whose child was in the system at the time. And I stumbled upon Finn's website, and after reading the information available, I thought to myself, gosh, I would have really loved this when I was going through my battle with child safety. How can I get involved? So when a parent crosses my path that's in need of support, it's against me to ignore that. And as a parent with lived experience, it's so easy to recognise and understand the physical and emotional signals that other parents put out, and it's like they're broken and they're stuck. And when they receive advocacy, their spirits are lifted. They have a voice again, and they're able to keep fighting, and that's a fact. I was successfully reunified with my daughter after 5.5 years of struggling, and that's why I'm here today. How about you, Tennille? Would you like to share your story?
Well, I tried to do the Finn program back in 2023. It's a running joke. And I think I was just on the waiting list to do the group last year. But I tried to when my journey, I was like, I Googled and Googled and Googled. I rang services, and I couldn't find anyone that was there for the parent. There was no advocacy for the parent. I don't really remember how I come across Finn, but I think it might have just been a poster on a wall or something. But it never gets mentioned to you. So, pretty much just wanted to advocate for other parents because there's not enough information out there.
And morning, Viv. We had the pleasure of meeting you when we brought Parents' Voices to your organisation. How did your workers and you find that when we met at Browns Plains?
I guess for Uniting Care, we have such a gamut of services that parents are always somewhere on our radar, and in some programs obviously more than others. So we have been aware of the Finn for a while, but when we held our Research to Practice forum and invited you guys and you came and you spoke about your own experience, it just shifted so many things for so many people in that room, because to hear the struggles firsthand, and they are recent struggles and they are lived struggles, and to then see the parallels that are drawn, like some of our struggles are the same, which is kind of insane given that, you know, sometimes we're at totally different ends of the spectrum of the child safety continuum. I think it really opened definitely my eyes, but also some of my colleagues' eyes to how do we meaningfully partner with parents, so that with the view of children always being at the forefront and center, how do we actually do that without losing sight that parents have a key role to play here in every single part of it. So I guess that's where it started for us, Beck, in terms of our recent connection, that we have found now a pathway to formally bringing parents into all sorts of things we do, both from an actual direct experience when we're working with clients perspective, but much more so from an advisory perspective, when if we have ideas about things we want to co-create, things, new programs we want to think, we now have a way of actually asking people who've had this experience, is this even a good idea? Is this going to work? What do you think about that? So it's done heaps for us, actually.
Yeah. And Carissa, can you tell us why you think parents' voices are important in the organisation that you work with?
Yeah, sure. So I think many years ago, I was developing some training around reunification and family time. And I had carers' perspectives, and I had been really saturated in obviously the views of carers, but I was missing the parents' perspective about what a good reunification process looks like and what good family time looks like. So I connected with Finn and asked to come out and meet with some parents because I wanted to include the voices of parents in the training that I was developing. And I think I actually remember the day really clearly, and I met some parents that are still in the room today. And my background many years ago was in child safety, where I worked directly with parents, but I hadn't for a long time. And I felt that hearing the voices of parents that day and the struggles really grounded me again. I think obviously carers contact QFKC not because they have positive stories, but because they're struggling in some ways. And so actually hearing those lived experiences, not just of when things had not worked, but when things had worked. So those experiences with parents where they had worked with carers and it had been really positive and it had resulted in really good family time and reunification. So it grounded me again, and it really demonstrated to me that I had a responsibility to intentionally seek out positive stories and to engage, and that carers and parents are part of care teams. So that was kind of the background, and, have just really continued to engage with Finn since then, to the point now where QFKC runs a recruitment, training and assessment program, and we have parents attend the panel for new carers. And I can tell you that every single time that we get feedback from carer applicants, it is the panel that stands out, and it is the parent stories that really resonate and really shift the way in which they're thinking about, because there is myths out there, and there is stereotypes out there in the media, both in respect to carers and in respect to parents. So I think it really assists in dispelling some of those.
And Tennille, I'm going to throw to you again because you've got a really good success story for piggybacking off that.
Yeah, so I had a really good foster carer. So obviously not all my kids were with the same foster carer, but I had 3 of my kids with one foster carer. And the thing, I met her in a waiting room for a contact or something like that, and she said, "I'm here to help you get your kids back, not keep them." And that has always resonated with me, like still to this day. Like she's taken on the grandparents role. My kids have been back about 2.5 years, but her and her husband have taken on the grandparent roles. All her children, who are all grown up, are all involved. I go to Christmas events, Easter events. They've given like money to pay for kids back to school stuff. But if it wasn't for her advocating as well to child safety and pulling them up on things that they were doing and going, well, this isn't right, and just her helping and her going, oh, I'll do the contacts on the weekend. It was her that got the progress moving along, and without that, it wouldn't have happened.
That is such a powerful story, and I think the panel really illustrates that. The carers that speak in, the parents that speak in the panel talk about those little things that have made a difference. So one that we had recently was a parent that said when she entered into the carer's home to see the child's bedroom, because the child wanted them to, come and see the bedroom, as they were going up the stairs, there were photos of all of the carer's family, but in between all of those photos were pictures of the child and the mum and her family. And so it wasn't just a photo in the room, beside the bed. It was actually integrated into the family home. And those stories, when they're told to other carers and the impact that it has, I think just, can be the start of something really magical and beautiful.
I agree, and I think there's something really fundamental here about how we manage carer expectations. I think this is something, as one of many fostering kinship care agencies, I think there has to be a real focus on we're working with parents here. The parent is never the enemy, and even in cases where maybe reunification is never possible, we don't know it. The gamut of situations is so broad, but a parent will always have some sort of critical meaning in a child's life. whatever that looks like, it's so different. And I think being able to work with carers to not see that as not a competition, but also not a complication, a fundamental critical part of a child's journey, whatever that looks like, I think will actually change the foundation of how care is done. And Tennille, honestly, I love your example so much, because the selflessness of the carer to say, it's not about me, it's never about me, it's always about the children. And then for you, there's so much opportunity for you to be resentful, or to say, oh, well, you're not raising my kids the way I want you to, and you haven't done any of that. You've gone, hey, I really appreciate the support, I really love this, be part of my family. And now you've got this extended network of people who really care about your children. I think it's such a powerful example of what is possible when everybody just changes their focus onto what is actually the best thing for those children in that moment. So I think you've done an amazing job with that.
Yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say, the other things that they did was they treated me like I was the mum. There was no other question about it. They asked me, how do you parent? What is it that you want? What time would you send your kids to bed? What wouldn't you let your kids have? What would you let your kids have? It was all of that helped. And I could see the difference with them, and theirs was the most successful out of the other two foster carers I had, because they engaged a lot more.
And I'm going to bring up your beautiful little boy now, and ask you how you felt the health system could help with parents with lived experience, or...
Yes. When I had my little boy, it's, you're in the hospital room and they bombard you with all these brochures and everything to do with vaccinations and registering your child, but there's no information to say this is what, this is a basic checklist to say, that you need to have to provide a safe life for your child, or else they could, be removed from your care. There is nothing like that at all. And I think at this point in my life, one of my ideas is to work alongside Queensland Health in that area to just provide spread awareness and provide information to parents to potentially prevent the amount of children that enter into care. Because if you have a baby and you don't even know what is expected of you to keep that baby, set up to fail, especially for younger parents. Like I was only 17 when I had my first child, did not have a clue, and she was taken before she even turned 1. So I think it would be really helpful in that area, just an idea of mine.
There's another aspect to that too, I think, and that is, it's not even, I think it's a great idea, starting with that, absolutely. And I think it's not even just here are the things you need to do so that your child isn't removed. It's also, what are we offering you to support you? What are we actually putting in place? So I remember, I'm going way back now, when I was working with families, and the program was, this is New South Wales, so I can say this freely because the Queensland government didn't sponsor or fund it. And it was an early intervention program, and literally half the families had already had their children removed. So early intervention is, again, is that really early intervention when parents have already had an experience? But I remember really clearly this family was referred to me, and the mum was 14, the dad was 16. They were first-time parents. And the concerns were actually because the mum had been in and out of care herself as a child. And so this family was obviously on the radar of the department. And there were real worries around intellectual capacity of the mum, the young mum, but then also the grandparents' ability to care. So there's all of that. But we got the referral, and we got the referral a couple of weeks after the baby was born. And it was exactly that. It was, there is no sign here of abuse or intended neglect. This is just a skills issue. This is just very young parents with an intellectual impairment, and grandparents who are also young, obviously, because their daughter was only 14, what can we actually put in place in the home, in this family, that will support this baby to grow up in this family? Like, it's not even about removal at that stage. It's about what are we doing to really empower people to work together as a village? And it's even, I remember really small things, like one of the staff went on a home visit and mum was home, young mum was home, but dad and the baby were out. And there was this whole concern about, you know, like, oh my gosh, the baby isn't with the mum. And it's like, wait a minute, which other family do you visit? And dad proudly took the baby to show off to some other family members. Like, why are we questioning this? But it's the lens and it's the shift as to, we have these prejudices and we have to constantly battle them and say, this is a normal part of having a baby. You have a baby, you got shot off. Like, you know, there was no need for concern apart from a whole group of people who'd worked in an area where there were a lot of concerns from everywhere else. So, yeah, I think back to your point, it's let's inform people and then let's actually empower and enable them to really do a good job.
I agree, because they say, you know, when you have a child, you're not given a parent's handbook. They're just tossed to you. Let's create something like a handbook for parents. Yeah, especially at the time of birth.
But I think it's also when you say that they're young, you know, skilling them up while they're pregnant instead of just not telling them anything and then turning up at the hospital and saying you're in a risk family. So stepping in prior to, you know, the first 6 months before the baby's born, you know, and saying that we are interested and that because you are a child of care that, you know, we may be removing this baby, but then teaching them all this stuff and bringing them on board and empowering them. So then when they have that baby, because I don't know, maybe a young mum, 14, that must be quite traumatic for, Yeah,
it could even be in just an easy form of parenting classes at the hospital when you're pregnant, something simple.
Yeah, or even in some of the prenatal classes, you know, what are we doing there? What are we doing there to build connection and fostering a social network for people where younger mums might be buddied with older mums? Like, there's so many opportunities. I did just realise when I hear stories like this, I always want to know the outcome. I just realised I left you all hanging on the outcome. The child was never removed. This family was incredibly engaged and worked really, really closely together. We closed the case. I'm going to say we ended working with the family after about 18 months, and there's nothing to indicate that they ever even hit, you know, any sort of care system. So there are some really good examples, I think, from when we get in there early enough to be able to work together.
and I will piggyback off that. My daughter was a mum at 15, and she's got a beautiful 11-year-old son now that she's never lost, and 2 other babies, sorry. So she's got an 11, 8, and 2-year-old at 28. So, and she's a fantastic mum. So there are really good success stories out of these mums that may have been in care that have them young. So, and I'm a proud grandma. I must admit, I'm a very, very proud grandma.
I was just going to piggyback off of everything you guys are saying. When I become a young mum, there actually is a program like of what you guys are talking about. It was called, at the time, it was like the Young Mumps and Bumps group. But again, it was only tailored to a certain age. So anyone that was like, you know, let's say 14 up until 21. So anything over 21, there was nothing tailored to that. But that program, they did prenatal, like you come before you were pregnant, you come after you're pregnant, and then they could also refer you, like the ones that were younger, to a school that actually had built a program to keep kids in school, and they could bring their baby, and they gave them a certificate in childcare if they completed it. But there's only one program that I've ever heard that does this. So, yeah.
So I'm going to put around the table, why is it better to have parents themselves advocating for change?
So many good reasons, nearly uncountable. I mean, if we could have a parent alongside us for everything, wouldn't we just be... But yeah, even just looking back at where I've failed, having a parent alongside me, if I had have been given the chance, would have helped me out of so many slumps. Just having that person that has experience, knowledge, and, you know, would help a lot immensely. Even just having regular contact with them. Yeah.
For me, it would have been I'm not really sure. Mine's a bit. Mine was a DV situation, so it would have just been all the people that I was around, because I don't have a lot of family, but it would have been like all the child health nurses, or like all the groups I attended, like play groups and stuff like that. People were aware that there was DV involved, but they never asked me. So it would have been nice if a parent had like advocated, or if they knew something was going on, like just ask me in the situation. But I find like with the system, I never got help. Like I left a DV situation, and instead of getting help, I lost my children. So like just in that situation, if there was like parent advocacy around the DV and help around the DV instead of losing your child as the only option.
Sorry about that, Sunil. I can relate to that a little bit. Like, you know, when my daughter was a baby, her father was abusive, and if there's an alert to the police, the first people that come knocking is child safety. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough situation, and it tears families away. And like through my experience, I've noticed that with DV itself, most kids are removed in a DV situation, and there's no early interventions, there's no ISS services or stuff put in place first. If it's a DV situation, they'll take your kids first before they'll offer you any help whatsoever.
Yeah, it's upsetting. It really is.
I'm going to throw to Carissa or Viv. And
Look, I think just even at QFKC, we have volunteers that are carers that support other carers. You know, that premise that supporting someone that has lived through or is experiencing what you are is just a fundamental, you know, role of understanding someone's lived experience and being able to provide appropriate support. And that's not to say that it's isolated just to that. So we have case officers at QFKC that support carers, but we also have carers that support carers, you know. So it's not one or the other. It's about someone feeling that they have the option of having someone support them through a process that has lived their experience and can give them hope. And it's the same in mental health. They often have mental health support workers that have a lived experience, the same in DV, with DV Connect. So it just makes sense. It's not something new, so why aren't we doing it in that parent space?
I have so much to say about this. You're going to have to stop me. I'm really scared. I'm going to take over the whole conversation. There's probably two fundamental things out of what I've just heard. One is, Tania, I'm really sorry. What's happened is that you, as a victim of domestic and family violence, have inadvertently been punished for being a victim of domestic and family violence. And it is much more complex than that, but I see this all the time. In our quest to try and keep children safe, we're also interrupting part of what is potentially their safety network, often, not always. And I will say that in all of our intensive family support services, in almost all cases, the families we work with have either experienced or are currently experiencing domestic and family violence, and it's the first thing we focus on. So how to keep the children safe within their protective network, how do we remove perpetrators, how do we work with perpetrators, not work with as in collaborate with them, I mean as in how do we work with the family who's experiencing this. So that's one thing. I think we still have a really long way to go to not inadvertently punish often mums, parents who are experiencing this. My second thing is parents who are going through any part of the system are the people who will understand the absolute most authentically and best what other parents are experiencing in the system. I can study as much as I want, but I will never know what that emotion is like to have the threat of or have my child removed if that hasn't happened to me. And I think there's a lot of power in this connection. So one of the things we've started doing last year, which has been like it's a no-brainer, like Carissa said, like why is this so hard? But we run the family intervention service in a few different places in Queensland, and the one on the sunny coast decided that they wanted to have almost like an alumni catch-up. So families that we close because there are no longer any safety risks and they don't have to have a case anymore and the children are in the family or they're reunified, once we close with them, we do link them in with other services, but there isn't really a social network for them. Like, as you said, it's isolating if you don't know anyone else who's been through this. And so we now do a monthly barbecue with them in the park, and we invite all current families and all former families, and if you want to come, you can come. And then we partnered with, there's another agency who provides the same service in the same region, and we've extended the invitation to them and said, you know, your parents that want to come can come. And it's become this beautiful little grassroots initiative of parents who've had an experience getting together, having a barbecue together, and they're forming friendships totally outside of us, totally outside of the service system. They're just mates. They're just like someone else they can relate to. They like each other. They care about each other. Off they go and have their own friendship. So the isolation is reduced. It's reduced because people are experiencing, there's no shame because everyone's been in the exact same spot. That's why I think it's important. If we can break down the stigma, we can reduce the shame, then those parents will become the strongest advocates for the parents who are still currently going through that.
Can I just add something as well? I would suggest that when we've looked at the recent statistics that were just released in respect to reunification, it's not great in Queensland. I know that carers that are supported by other carers, we are able to retain them because of that, they've got that support. And I bet that if we had parents supported by other parents that had achieved reunification, that we would see more children being reunified because they would have hope, they would be able to navigate a system, they would be able to understand, you know, the complexities, but also see that, okay, well, they did it, I can do it too. So I think, you know, having parent advocates alongside parents as a matter of course could actually really have an impact on reunification.
Success rates.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, it took me 3 years to find someone that would help. And I think I got referred, I don't know if I was referred or I asked to be referred to Marsden Families. I don't know if many people have heard of them. They do Moreton Bay region area. Their program and their advocacy is life-changing. What they did changed everything for me, and I can't explain, like, their support was, they would come into the home and they would see, and they wouldn't sit there and go, oh, you're doing all this wrong. If they had anything that they were worried about or anything like that, they would like have a meeting with you and discuss like any concerns or worries. I got to a point where I had enough of child safety, and I was like, I'm not talking to them. Like, I'm done. Like, don't talk to me. Like, if you want to talk to me, you talk to me by an email. Like, that's how done I was with them. So they did the communication part for me because I couldn't communicate without losing it at them. So, like, I did find that their advocacy was amazing, but it would have been great if a peer support worker was in their organisation as well that could say, oh, we got our children back. And I asked them, like, how often do you get, how often do kids get returned? And they said, you're one of the exceptions. Like, even our program is very hard. Program is hard to get kids home, but it's an amazing program. So the access rate should be a lot higher, but yeah.
I'd just like to talk about the topic of addiction and relapse prevention also. If parents had advocacy for that, if they had someone actively supporting them for that with lived experience, as myself have been, that could be just like a breakthrough for support for parents, because it is a big issue that they just don't have enough support with. Like, there is supports out there for people struggling with addiction, and but I think if they had a parent advocate with lived experience, it could really, really change the game for a lot of parents as well, in my experience.
So I'm going to put to the table now, what do we think some doable next steps could be?
I want to talk about a program that I came across. They're called Icebreakers, and it's a program that is in place in a state in America. And it's been entrenched for so long that it's just part of what they do. I think I heard a parent talk about once how the system just expects carers and parents to form a relationship and get along, but there's no assistance to do any of that. And so unless you've got both parties intentionally wanting to, then that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So in this state in America, they have what's called Icebreakers, and it's part of the law that after children come into care, that there's a facilitated, mediated meeting between the parents and the carers, and that's where they meet. That's where the carer is expected to ask the parent about routines, likes, dislikes. It's about developing that relationship intentionally. Because if we want to achieve the outcomes that Tennille has talked about today, then we have to be intentional in the way in which we do it. We can't just expect it will happen on its own all the time. So I think years ago the department introduced some frameworks for practice, and there was the Strengthening Families framework, and they talked about bridging the gap between parents and carers. I feel like we've still got a long way to go there, and I think we need to put systems in place that make those relationships develop where appropriate, and support parents and carers to really work with each other so that we achieve reunification. We've got 13,500 children in care. Like, the system just can't carry on. We've got to get children home where we can get them home, and it is the relationship between parents and carers that is going to achieve that.
Tennille or Chloe?
Absolutely, yes.
Like, I just piggyback off of your one. I've always thought that child safety should, like, you got your family group meetings and all them types of meetings, they should have like a family meeting with like the carers, but make it goal orientated about like what your parenting styles are, what their parenting styles are, what you want to achieve, and what they want to achieve. Like, I know they do that with a family group meeting, but that's more formal, and that can be quite overwhelming because they're kind of attacking you and telling you what you're doing wrong and what you need to do to get your kids back. They're not actually sitting there and saying, oh, well, this is what the carers are doing with your kids. You sit there in limbo with these random people with your children, and you know nothing about these people. You know, it would be nice for them to do a story to us to say who these people are that are looking after our children. You know, there's a storybook for the children about their family, but where's a storybook about the people looking after your children, you know? So I think like that kind of stuff could be helpful. It's also like you get to make decisions. Like, I know not everyone gets to make decisions, but like about where you want your kids to go to school and stuff like that. Like, I know there can be quite some arguments between where the carers want the children to go to school and where you need the child to go to school, depending on the distance from the homes. Well, the ultimate goal is to get your children back to you. So putting them in a school that's going to be closer to the parent is like, that should be like part of the goal plans, like things like that. Just case planning with the carers.
I have actually noticed that there can even be documented goals of, you know, that sort of family planning, but it's not ever followed through with. Because, you know, you can want something for your child, but the carer just can't provide that, like cultural needs and religious sorts of things. And it can all go well written down, but it's, rarely followed up with. And there's a big problem there, I see.
I think in terms of tangible steps, the first thing we need to name is that every single person that's part of this conversation, and I don't just mean this conversation, I mean the conversation, has a role to play. It is critical, and that might be a very different role for each one of us. But when I think about the number of programs that we, for example, provide in Queensland, every single one of them has got an opportunity to engage parents more. Sometimes we work with families anyway, but in some of our programs we don't. We might just work with the child themselves. So then what are we doing to make sure that the parent is engaged in that journey that we're having with their child? And I think for our parents with lived experience, speaking out about the things that you've experienced and that you're still observing is really critical and really powerful, because it's going to influence how we, the sector, the workers in the sector, do our work. So we need to partner, and I think that's a really tangible thing. And the other thing is to just keep an open mind. There's a lot of stereotypes, like carer stereotypes, young people in care stereotypes, parent stereotypes, everything. And yet no two stories are the same. Your stories are not the same. Nobody's story is the same. So I think that it comes back to, and this is really hard because we like to put things in boxes and tick them and move them on. But actually the practical thing here is to hear every single story individually and say, right, this is how we assist here and this is how we assist here. And if we can't do that, then we're actually doing a disservice to the children that we're trying to care about.
And I'm just going to add on that paid parent advocates and voices of parents bringing more into organisations and walking alongside these parents and getting trained by parents with the lived experience, but also embracing paid parent advocates in your organisation that have walked this walk and that could be the strengths that could bring some of your parents out, you know, or foster carers, you know, being the reunification of, you know, success stories, because it's so important to have that lived experience voice.
And I think the panels for QFKC, that will be something that we will continue as long as we have that program, because we have seen the impact that it has, and it starts the journey of foster carers into the system with the right framework and the right thinking. And, you know, we have a young person there, we have a carer, and we have a parent. And all those experiences are really important. But what is highlighted by our carer applicants after each one is how much the parent's story has really impacted them and how they are going to approach caring differently now. So we will certainly continue to do that. And we have just engaged we will be doing a video of parents, so that for those services that are not able to get a parent at their training, that they can show a video of a parent's story, so that it's not just the Brisbane Moreton Bay region that is where care applicants are having that experience, but hopefully it's across the state.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, you know, that we've had around the table. Is there anything else that anyone else wants to add in?
I'm just really happy to be here, a part of all the good changes that are coming. Happy to be a part of Finn.
I was just going to say, just hear our voices, listen to our stories, and I think by people listening to parents' stories and their knowledge and where the system does and doesn't work, will actually help change the system.
I will say both to myself but also to everybody else that let this not be yet another conversation we walk away from and be inspired by and then park at the back of our brain somewhere because some other urgent emergency, you know what I'm saying, has come along and has derailed us. Let's actually put this at the forefront and center of our mind. And I want to pick up that point of yours, Beck. Let's actually pay people for the professional service that they are providing us. So if we are going to draw on parents as an advisory board, let's actually recognize that financially as well, because that's another bugbear, I think, where we have peer support and we draw on the desire of those people to change the sector without actually acknowledging that this is a professional career and that this is something that needs to be rewarded quite formally as well. But let's not walk away and just feel inspired and then forget about it. Let's actually put something and say, I don't know, it's a call out. Everyone think of one thing for yourself quietly. You don't have to announce it to the room. What are you going to do as a result of this conversation that is going to shift how we include parents in the journey that we're all taking?
I had a parent at our most recent panel that said a child's love doesn't need to be divided, it needs to be multiplied, and that's what occurs, you know, when they're in a home. And that message was just really powerful to me, and I think really resonates in respect to the responsibility I feel we have to build those relationships between carers and parents so that we can achieve reunification for our children where it's possible to do so. And to achieve that, we had to have a parent advocate in the room to tell that story. So it is such a powerful voice, and I agree with Vivian. It's time we started actually recognising that and having it embedded into our practice.
I've really enjoyed just listening to you all and just being here at the Fishbowl. So, and I think that parents' voices, families' voices, people's voices are just so powerful, and I think they just all need to be heard.
Yeah, hear our voices.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's detrimental. Detrimental to moving forward.
There we go. Wow. So I said it was going to be a privilege to witness this Fishbowl conversation, to hear and learn from these experts. But it was really also a pleasure for me, and I hope that it was for you. Parents have long called for improvements in the system and inclusion in the system, and that's what we've heard the experts talking about today, including parents. It's happening though. Like, we heard some examples from Carissa and from Vivian in small pockets where parents have been included, and you know, this conversation today is also an example of parents being included. We know it's very successful and the impact is enormous. So thank you to these 5 experts who are not only doing the work together with and for parents, but championing the meaningful inclusion of parents and the benefits that follow. Our collective challenge now, everybody in this room, everybody online, is to expand these small pockets, to take those next steps and grow the influence and opportunities for parents in all parts of our systems. And we heard today, we talked about multiple systems where parent voices would be valuable. So I'm keen to hear your thoughts soon, but for now, back to you, Star.
Thank you, Marnie, and thank you to the Fishbowl for your wonderful conversations. Bravo. In a few minutes, we will welcome you all to this great conversation in the room and online. To help capture your comments and ideas, you have notepaper on the tables, and we will have microphones coming around the room. There is also a screen on Menti for your comments. We will read out as many comments from our online audience as possible. Reminder, you can get to the screen by typing in menti.com and entering the code 23425908. While you gather your thoughts, we will have a creativity break. As I said earlier, we have a series of powerful pencil drawings on the table created by our Finn dad here, and online you can see these drawings now. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Brett. Not only did Brett prepare these drawings for this event, but he has also been drawing while listening to this morning's forum, and with his permission, we are filming his work throughout the morning. Brett, would you like to have a quick chat about your 3 drawings?
Yeah, thanks for that, Star. If you are looking at the gold one, this artwork represents a family that's been reunified in a happy home situation. So I've done a couple of them there. I would have liked to have done more with some inspiration from other people's perspective as well, but the purple one represents a child safety custody battle, encapsulating the order and the struggle in the process. And the red one is an artwork that represents the struggle involved with a parent trying to obtain contact visits with their children. And so, as I said, I wanted to create a few more, maybe with some other people's perspective and inspirations on them, but I didn't want them all to be doom and gloom, because we all sort of can see that at the end of the road, what the common goal is, the reunification, what we're all sort of going for there. It can be a very tedious and very long, drawn-out process with child safety, and everybody has a different perspective on that and what it is, what it can encapsulate for them. So, like I said, I would have wanted to do more of them, but yeah, those are the ones that I've done for today. So
I think everyone can agree they're all beautiful, and well, yeah, we think they're amazing. Thank you for sharing them today. And Brett, you also mentioned that you loved the live illustration process last year at Global Day of Parents. Is there anything more you'd like to say about that at all?
No, I just really wanted to have a crack at it. I thought it'd be really, really cool sort of thing to have a go at. Yeah.
Well, you did a bloody good job, I think.
No worries, thank you.
And if it's okay, we'll check in again later, but no pressure.
Not a worry.
Now, as promised, it's time to turn this room and our online room into a fishbowl. Let's expand the discussion that we heard earlier about how parents and workers are partnering, creating change. Yeah, hi Patrick.
I'll be first off the rank, eh?
Sorry?
Hello. Yeah, can I be first off the rank?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Hey, look, everybody, look. It's very hard for me to stand here and obviously be humble and quiet, but we talk about parents, you know, and right across the system. I work within the legal system. I'm CEO with Brisbane Aboriginal Legal Service, and I also work with the medical service. So let's be straight in line, and I'll be passionate about this. A few of my Finn members will know how passionate I am about this. But where do men sit at the table? You know, all around here, most of the people in the audience, you may be online, are all women. You're forgetting family. 2 parents have children. And it's, as I said, it's hard for me to listen to this. No one's giving a perspective from a man who goes through the struggles of keeping his family together. And you talked about statistics. I know statistics inside out. As I said, being in the justice and the health system, I know it inside out. Now, if we talk about children getting removed, I'm talking about Aboriginal communities now. The rates are 80% compared to the non-Indigenous. And let's go the other way now. The Director General's here. Maybe you can sort of have a go at the juvenile justice system. Because a lot of those kids that are 90% in the juvenile justice system are kids that have been removed and placed at res or foster care or whatever. And then, as I said, getting back to the parent side. No one knows what a man goes through. As a grandparent, I go through the trials and tribulations because I have to be questioned by the department, whether it be the justice system or child safety. Hang on a minute. What's the issue here with me? I'm the grandfather or I'm the father. I got to fight the system myself to justify where I sit at the table. Now, a lot of men are too ashamed to even sit down and go through this process. And that's where, you know, we talk about representation across the board. Well, there's no mentors to help our men. And I talk, as I said, I talk right across the board because if I'm sitting in West End, no matter what colour you are, someone will come up and ask me, Uncle, people said you might be the bloke to talk to about community issues. And I said, what's your issue? Oh, my issue is my children are gone. And now that they're in the system, I'm talking about the juvenile justice system now, I lose power. I lose my identity as a father. So, you know what I mean? And it's frustrating when I got to constantly go to forums and listen to this. Let's be genuine. If you're talking about family, unite the whole family. Because you have men out there who are sole providers, but yet they got to justify themselves in their own communities, even to the department or the justice system the health system or the school system, because he isn't capable enough to look after his own children. Hang on a minute. He's the same street as his partner. His partner's chasing drugs and alcohol. This man is working hard, trying to put a roof and provide for his family. So, you know what I mean? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But as I said, there's no disrespect to none of you ladies here, but there needs to be a balance of power, or at least a balance of representation right across the board when you talk about families. Because you don't. You're focused on the mum and the children. Well, hang on a minute. There's a family here. And within that family, you have grandparents. Well, in my family, like I said, I'm the babe of 13. But my sisters and my brothers, they're mother and father to my children, my grandchildren. So we have an extensive family. But in white man society, the Western society, they don't see that. And yet you can have other cultures come across here into our country, still practice their cultural beliefs, whether he has 2 or 3 wives, 5 multiple children. He's still allowed to practice that in Australia. Hang on a minute, because it's part of their customs. Hang on, we have customs here as well as indigenous race. Like I said, my sisters and my brothers, their mom and dad to my children, and their grandparents and their great-grandparents to my children. So, you know what I mean? Let's be realistic when you talk about families.
I'd just like to say, back to that, that I'm really sorry for what happened to the Aboriginals of this land, but I do have utmost respect for you. When I was reunified with my daughter at Caboolture Child Safety Office, it was only to the very end of my 5.5 years that I changed departments. I went from Strathpine, was most of the time that I had spending my case like with my daughter, and then in the end I moved my case to Caboolture, where they actually had a running program for dads, for men, and it stunned me, and I'm like, wow, you couldn't have found this anywhere else. Like, this is unheard of, and it was amazing, and that's the department that helped me get my child back. And because I didn't have the fathers in the situation, it was just me as a single mum. So, but even just seeing that they had, they're working with dads, and it was like, yeah, this needs to happen. I respect that. So I can just say back to that there is those things coming up in place now, and I respect it a lot.
I would just like to say to Patrick, I'm also sorry about that, and I really resonate with that. My fiance and I, we experienced DV in our addiction and stuff, and a lot of our past relationships leaked into our relationship. But now we're engaged and we've got custody of our 2 daughters, and we've nearly been fully reunified with our son. But that wouldn't have happened if we didn't do a Walking with Dads program, which Child Safety, or the government, are trying to shut down. And I really think that's not a good idea, because it really helped my family to be able to excel past addiction, past DV, and yeah, look, my partner now provides for our family. Like, we wouldn't live in the beautiful home and have our children if it wasn't for my partner to be able to go work in the mines and come back and spend a week with his kids and a week away. If he didn't do that, I would probably be a single mum still in addiction with no kids, trying to fight to get my children back. But also, I wanted to mention about Fizz at the Sunshine Coast, the barbecues that they do. I am a member. So, yeah, it makes me emotional, but it gets really lonely when you leave addiction and come in to try to do the right thing, especially if you were born into with addicts or parents and stuff like that, broken family. So when you're coming out of that, you feel alone, like nobody knows where you're at. And yeah, Fizz just changed my life. As for Lily House, which is like for the single mums, that need support around escaping DV. They're amazing as well. Like, they changed my life as well. And I just wanted to piggyback off, I don't know who it was that said something about the success stories of parents. Like, I've got a bit of a following on social media, and I shared my story just about my first reunification, and it blew up. And the amount of people that have reached out to me over the past 12 months, 18 months, about just where do they start or whatever, or just coming and talking to me about their problems or stuff. They come back to me about 6 months later telling me that this is what's happened in reunification with them, because I was able to share my success, you know. And I think it's great. The pretty, the ugly, if we can just all be a community and create like a family almost, to reunite their children back with family. And like you said, a child's love shouldn't be divided. It should be multiplied. And with Tennille, with your carers, like, I have an awesome relationship with my daughter's carer. They go there every second weekend. We're going to the zoo this Friday. So it's amazing, you know, like, if we can really encourage that, it changes lives. My daughter was just here yesterday, and she was telling the educators here, my Oma, that's the carer's name, my Oma and my mama are so proud of me. They love me so much. And to hear my little girl on the second level just proud to announce how proud we are of her, that's a joint effort. You know, so if we could find a way to support that, I think that would be great.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kerry. I'm joined here by Jenny Whitworth here, who will help facilitate the remainder of the discussion. Yeah.
Yep, we've already started. Thank you, Patrick and Kerry-Ann. We just wanted to make sure that we know that it's a room full of experts, as Marnie was saying, and we're trying really hard not to do the traditional question and answer, to have an equal conversation. We've got people online as well, and that's really important that we include them. So that's why there's a laptop open. We've got Laura looking at those, and she'll bring those in a moment, and we'll... It could be a complete disaster, couldn't it? Yeah. We're going to give it a red hot go, and I also acknowledge the Director General in the room, and when we had the conversation just as we were coming in, it was really important to you. You said to listen and to be in, you know, hearing these ideas. And in this room of many experts, I really, really appreciate that that perspective of coming to listen and then to think and then to percolate, and not everyone having all the answers instantly. I appreciate it. Okay, Laura, who we got?
Hello. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's a lot of good discussion going on. It's hard to pick out the best because they're really good. Brett is encapsulating the essence of today. I loved that. That's exactly what you're doing. Lots of people are saying that about the resourcing. We always talk about it's good to support parents, but it's important to resource them to do the things that are on the list of things you need to do. So people are talking about flexibility of funding to do what's needed defined by lived experience in the community. And questions around, you know, children being on the social housing wait list, and parents can't do anything about that necessarily. Someone really liked the idea of Chloe's idea of the handbook, and they mentioned that in their opinion the handbook wouldn't just be about like the physical needs of what to do for your baby, but I liked that they also mentioned they could introduce a topic of attachment, because I didn't really know how important it was to just smile back at my children sometimes, or make eye contact when they were showing me something. So that would be really helpful. Someone's saying definitely that we need to have a remuneration policy for lived and living experience, which we all agree with that, I would hope. And someone else reminded me of something actually that Patrick, you said at the forum last week, which was a concept of vouching for organisations working with parents. Someone mentioned that one way that a parent advocate be really valuable in family interventions is because they can explain to new parents coming in that the program is helpful and that they can be trusted. Yeah, Patrick talked about parents who've been through it can give that authentic vouching for the organisation to other parents because they know, yeah, these guys are to be trusted. And I think that's something that only parents with lived experience can do, is that authentic vouching and saying these guys will work with you, you can trust them, even with your trauma. And someone had a question I want to throw back to the fishbowl. They wanted a parent to answer. You talked about a family inclusive approach with domestic and family violence. So how do you think we could keep the victims of violence safe and the families together, in you guys' opinion?
Well, I'm going to say that's a very complicated answer. I guess it depends on the situation at the end of the day, because there's so many definitions of domestic violence. Like, you know, it depends whether it's, like whether one person has to leave or the other one. So in my situation, for example, if there was a program built, like a men's program or something, where my ex-husband could have gone to and potentially did like some courses and just had men, like mentors and stuff like that, and like the kids could have like come and seen him in a natural way, instead of it just being, when you leave DV, it is like chaos. Like, it's you leave and they don't even know you're gone, and then there's the panic, and then they're like it's not a nice experience. And then there's all the custody, there's the legal stuff, there's DVOs if you have to get DVOs, or good behaviours, all that kind of stuff. So it's there's a lot to it at the end of the day, but there's lots of examples that could go. Chloe, have you got anything you want to say?
I was just thinking about that. It is very circumstantial, I guess, when it comes down to the situation and who's the perpetrator and whatnot. Just getting the kids safe is the main thing. But it would come in. I suppose that would be a very, let's say, if like to set up the safety of children in the DV situation. It'd be a lot that would go to it. Like, there's a fair bit of work that needs to be put into that around those situations. So it's something that we'd probably have to think a lot about.
Yeah, like it's like DV Connect can't help everyone. Like in my situation, they tried to help me leave, but I would have been a single mum, 6 kids. DV Connect doesn't house anyone that has 6 kids. So there's capacity-wise, there's funding-wise, so many people. Not everyone's eligible to even use the DV Connect. There's a lot of people that I would say are untrained in that service. But at the end of the day, the priority is the children and the parent. But it's also it's very, very complicated.
Like, and it's hard for parents to protect their children as well in a timely manner. Without raising alarms and getting into any more DV, like to prevent that is to need like a support network you can kind of work with behind the scenes of your DV would help prevent that a lot, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Taylor and I work with Micro Projects in the Young Mothers for Young Women program. I just want to jump into this a little bit because I was really fortunate when I left my domestic violence situation to be supported by Anglicare in their emergency crisis accommodation program. So they actually have short-term supported housing on a campus that's a gated community. There's staff on site 24/7. And we moved into one of their apartments. We were so fortunate. The wait list is normally a million years long. But that was a really important step for me to get out of that relationship. I think had I not had a program like that, we see obviously so many women having to return to the situation because they can't support themselves or whatever it is. But more programs like that are supported accommodation, short-term accommodation to support in that time after when you don't know what you do. It is chaos. And you're trying to get your life back together. I think programs like that are fundamental to this.
Couldn't agree more. Is there anyone else that wanted to further answer that question? Yeah, thanks, Carrie Ann.
I would just like to put it out there as well that Lily House in Sunshine Coast, they've just got funding to open up 5 new cottages between 3-bedroom, I think 3 and then less bedrooms in the cottages, and it's a supported community that mums and children can stay in for up to 12 months. But they've also got Lily House. There's Grace Haven Cottages and then Lily House, which is a live-in environment where you can also have your children, but that's a little bit limited because it's only 5 bedrooms in the one building. But that's another...
Carrie Ann, does that involve dads?
It does not involve dads, no. As far as I'm concerned, there's actually not any... There's nothing like Lily House. There's not anything...
Majorly concerning.
Yeah.
That's why I said there needs to be something for the dads as well.
The only thing that I'm aware of the dads is the Walking with Dads program that the government's trying to shut down, shut funding
How
for.
do we get involved with stopping that process of shutting the Walking with Dads?
I would say a petition or some sort. Yeah. So I've got details. I had a lady that reached out to me because they need advocating for it because they're like...
Yeah, I think that's something we should all jump onto.
100%. That's why I mentioned it.
There needs to be more of that. That not just one program, but several, and housing support as well.
Before it gets to the point of removal of children.
As Patrick did say, it's not just women, and it's very unequal. It's disgusting, I will say.
Patrick just wanted to have a quick word.
I'll just say something quick on that. Look, I suppose the biggest issue is domestic violence. Now, it's out in the mainstream no matter where you look, no matter what creed you are. Domestic violence is out there. But if you're living in a small Aboriginal community, now you could be hit with a basic breach of a domestic violence, crossing your children at the shops when you got to keep away for 100 meters. Now that's a little breach that goes on your name, and then you obviously allocate 3 breaches. Whether, as I said, you in a small Aboriginal community, you go to your families for a meal or a barbecue at your mother's or your brother's or sister's place, and your children show up. Now, a lot of these young academy guys that come out of the academy that looks to obviously get back into the real world, so to speak, into the city positions, they'll catch up and they'll get all of these, I suppose, breaches on people. And men end up with 3 breaches, and then after 3 breaches, automatically go for 3 months in prison. Now, how can we best eliminate or stop this? You can't. Because, as I said, we talk about statistics. I can talk about this till the cows come in. I know the statistics inside out in regards to incarceration under the Domestic Violence Act. As I said, I worked in the field. But there has to be some sort of scope. The men or even the women who have domestic violence breaches against them carry that for the rest of their lives. Now, how are you supposed to be a parent, a grandparent involved in the growth of your children when you got a domestic violence hanging over your head? Let's be real. And I said, I talk passionate about this from an Indigenous perspective. As I said, I can talk the statistics inside out. If we go into the nitty-gritty in regards to domestic violence in the Aboriginal community in regards to murder, you're looking at 3% compared to the white Western society, which is 58%. So I know this inside out. I said I also did my thesis on this for my master's. So I do know what I'm talking about when we come down to the nitty-gritty in regards to statistics, in regards to removal of children and the domestic violence in the indigenous race. So, you know, I mean, let's be real. If we want to start supporting our families and our communities, let's work together and walk together as one.
That's great. Thank you, Patrick. Mel, did you want to?
I just wanted to speak on and give, obviously, my team a cheeky little shout out. I'm just seeing quite a lot of little themes on early intervention, having parents working in peer worker roles and things like that, and just showing that there is a big success behind it. Working in YMYW, we are working in our Brisbane office under 25 women. We do also have a dad's worker jumping on that early intervention on things. Bringing dad's workers in. When I attended YMYW when I was 17 years old, having my son, that was the missing piece for a lot of our other mothers. There was no support for dads. My son's dad did get a domestic violence charge put onto him from his family. And in that, being on the north side, he was left to the streets, calling shelters, and because it's domestic violence, they would not allow him to have a night. He slept the night on a football field because that was the only option. And I think seeing the success of having this early intervention, having this handbook and having someone by our sides is just really amazing to know that it is working, but sad to know that it's so limited. Like, it's really hard for everybody to access certain things, us being only under 25, and we have 2 more on the north side, and you know the criteria to be able to access it, it's getting hard. But I think diving into having early intervention, as like you would know, Marnie, I'm very crazy about early intervention because I know it works. I've been that mum that's been 17, that has been couch surfing, that has been scared, but has had the team behind me, the team with peer workers as well. And we offering even supported play groups that is run by peer workers, that is run by what the parents need, is really important to see, to help have early intervention for our young mums that just need a hand. Honestly, people just need a hand.
Thank you so much. And we're just going to check back online for the remaining comments.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of acknowledgement that there's already lived experience advocacy happening in the community, but that it is often voluntary. And a lot of us feel that there should not be an expectation that parent advocates will volunteer to do the work. They can. They should have the ability to choose. But a lot of us would be restricted from doing the work if we were not paid because we would have to do something else. And there's another question that I thought was really good. Someone wants to hear from people in the room if anyone has their own experience of including parents in their organisations. And I think that's open to the whole room, if I can do that.
Is there anyone that wanted to answer that question? I know there's a lady here that would like to take the mic. Yeah. Is that relevant to the question, or do you have your own comment?
I actually think that maybe the response to that question might then be relevant to my comment or question.
Yeah. Thank you.
So maybe if there is someone that can answer the question, that would be good.
With me, my kids are doing play therapy because of the trauma they've got, and now the play therapist is also including me once a month for catch up and all that stuff, on telling me how the kids are processing, what I need to do to help them and everything.
Carry on. There's a lady over there wanting to.
you. Hi, I'm Renee from Community Living Association. So we work alongside parents with intellectual disability, and this is in response to the online question. I guess we've been on a bit of a journey over probably the past 10 to 15 years, 20 years maybe even, working with young people with intellectual disability who become parents. And now we work alongside parents, primarily mums, but we work with dads too with intellectual disability. And I guess the journey has been developmental, so really hearing from them about what they want, and that's sort of emerged into a peer support group. And those parents have been working very hard together to do systems advocacy over the past sort of 4 years. One of the big challenges we've faced parents are committed and doing this work, and they're doing it in their own time, and they're also doing it in more formal roles connected with our organisation. They're doing training with practitioners in child safety. They've done some work with Carissa at QFKC on the parent panels. But it's really challenging to get funding and to genuinely recognise the work that parents are putting in more formal ways. So we do have a little bit of funding at the moment where we're paying parents for their roles. We're involved in a Australian Research Council linkage project where parents are paid as co-researchers, I guess we would. It has lots of different names: lived experience researchers, co-researchers. Parents are developing and delivering workshops to train staff in family services, a whole range of roles. But as an organisation, we've really had to scramble to try and get all the things in place that you need to really support parents to do this work, and that's around having good peer support policies, policies around pay, as you were saying earlier, Laura. But yeah, so we are doing it, but it's a journey along the way, and trying to resource that and make sure it's done well, to really raise up the voices of parents and teach all of us about what we can do better to have better outcomes for families. It's a journey, yeah. So,
thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, oh, sorry, Crystal, did you want to say something? Crystal's one of the lived experience advocates, and she's just whispering over there, and I always shove the microphone to her rather than speak on her behalf.
It's a journey we do together. So once a week we come together to support, encourage and just uplift one another, because we know in this space it is very isolating, and yeah, that's what we do and that's what we're about.
Can I also just say, Community Living Association alongside Crystal has delivered workshops at probably 2 or 3 conferences now, Crystal. And Crystal was brave enough in an opening with I think about 500 people in the room to stand up and thank carers in the room, and had such an impact on the carers that were present. And we just, you know, those workshops are always booked out. I think her last workshop, the DDG attended, and, you know, was also blown away in terms of what you were able to share and the impact that it had on people in the room. And Crystal is one of our panel members, aren't you, Crystal? So we just love having Crystal attend our panels.
I was just my name's Lucas Moore. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Manager at the Queensland Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Child Protection Peak. I'm interested, obviously the Commission of Inquiry report was handed down last week, and myself and our team are making our way through what's a really big report and the recommendations in that report. The government's currently considering the report and will respond in a couple of months. But I just was curious as to whether any of the experts or people from Fin or others here had seen the recommendations from that report and what your thoughts about it were, or any of the particular recommendation.
Is it my turn? I just want to share what Chris has said about, I think it was my first ever conference when I got up in 500 people plus, and I just wanted to acknowledge that the carers that were at conference and the carers that would have liked to be there that weren't, because they were out on the fields raising our kids and doing the hard yards where we can't. So whether that's dealing with suspensions or dealing with school or behaviour or appointments, and yeah, it was just a really good day, and I always look forward to it, meeting carers, meeting other people, and yeah, and I think this year our topic is, or our presentation is going to be building relationship with parents and carers and parent carers.
Thank you, Crystal. Tony, just one moment. Gretchen's been waiting a while to make her comment.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I've got so many thoughts going in my head. I hope I'm coherent. Firstly, I just want to say thank you to the experts at our head table, but also all the experts in the room. I'm actually here as an ally, so I don't work for the department. I don't work for Finn. I'm not a parent with lived experience, and I'm actually not even a parent. And I'd say when I say I'm an ally of good systems. And my experience with doing, true lived experience work began 20 years ago. And that was when I was an employee of Queensland Health. And we were developing the newborn hearing screening program for children in Queensland. And we had parents at that table every step of the way. And it was from that I learned, and I didn't know before that we could design better systems and get better outcomes. And I think it's that experience that's kept me committed to this work. It's not only the respect for the parents that are critical. Obviously that's essential, but it's not only because of that. And I've continued that for the past 20 years, so I now work independently supporting organisations in human services and the government. And I think the thing that I'm thrilled that the work has continued. The thing that I'm frustrated by is that it's slow and it's in pockets. I think we've heard the word pockets lots of times. And I'm curious, what's it going to take to make this embedded in all of our organisations, in all of government, in all of our peak bodies? How does it scale up? What do we need to do to shift it? Because we know that it works. And not only, actually, the other very final comment I will make is that not only did it work for the systems and the outcomes we achieved, we ended up with a workforce who was delivering newborn hearing screening that was more satisfied because of the outcomes that was being achieved. So I've been converted ever since, and that's why I continue with the work that I do. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Gretchen. I'm jumping in to say we're out of time.
Jenny, could I just answer?
We're out of time for questions. And Lucas, I got your question. And so the quick answer, if we can remember back, Lucas asked a question about what Finn parent members thought of the inquiry report. Was that accurate? Yeah. It's been a week. Has it been a week? Yeah. Yeah. And it's a very long report. We know that. We had a conversation yesterday, and we've all been having conversations in our own lives. Some of the observations were, it's really interesting what's getting picked up in the media, selected in the media to be talked about. And so it's been a challenge to know what was in the report versus what the media is focusing on. The other message that came out strongly yesterday when we talked about it was a lot of what is in there is pretty upsetting. But also because the report's so large that parents are trying to wait and see. The devil's in the detail, etc. Also aware that there's a period until government responds, and we're trying to work through, what, with our limited time and resources, what is it that government needs from us now, or do we save our time and effort until implementation happens. But in that report we thought were some wins, because we've been, like, just one of them was the independent complaints process. We don't know what it's going to look like, but it is something that parents have been talking about and frustrated by for a very long time. There is obviously big recommendations around the legal system, and the legal system is something that parents have been frustrated about for a very long time. But the model that we have continually put up about what's worked really, really well, perhaps it has a place in the report, because the report says, let's pilot something, let's try something. And the one that we have talked about for a very long time, to bring it back to topic, is the community legal services that have a parent advocate as part of the team, so that every person has mandatory legal representation through a lawyer, but they sit alongside a parent with the lived experience, and then there's a social worker as well, so that not everyone is left trying to do another person's job, and then the parent gets that really timely support. So that's the sort of headlines of where we are. We're a little bit wait and see, a little bit curious about what's best, because we have put in 4 papers. It all takes a lot of time and emotional energy from the parents that contribute. The parents have contributed to that many reviews about residential care and that many reviews about the legal system, etc., etc. It takes its toll. So I reckon I avoided answering your question, Lucas, but that's the vibe.
And thank you all for your enthusiastic participation. In a few minutes, we'll come back to you, the audience fishbowl, for some more final discussion. Remember, the space for commenting online is to comment via Menti code 23425908. But before that, let's get an update on Brett's brainstorm. Can I interrupt your drawing again, Brett, to ask about what you've drawn today? Were there any particular ideas or words that you heard today that prompted these drawings?
Yeah, there was actually a lot that helped to gather some thoughts on what was going on. I think that there's a common theme here, and it's that early intervention can make a massive difference, and also that with the conglomeration of everybody's ideas and thoughts surrounding the fact that if everybody was on the same page working together to try and get families back together, it would obviously happen a whole lot faster, so change is definitely needed. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And you said you were inspired by the idea of trading cards for the 3 images prepared. The headings on the cards and the themes of today's Global Day of Parents is Together for Parents. Do you have any closing messages for the room?
No, just really, like, if anybody's got any ideas on those sort of things and what they might look like in the future, we could definitely have a go at putting some more together, for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you. And okay, so Jenny, we're back to our giant fishbowl. We have time for 2 or 3 last comments or questions. If it's a question, please say who you'd like to respond. I can't guarantee that they will, obviously. And Dom and Kerry-Ann are back to help with the mics. And online is available via Menti code 23425908.
Can I just quickly start comment on Gretchen's question about what is it going to take? Because I think that's an awesome question. It's about the next steps, right? And what I've heard is there's a lot of knowledge in this room, and I would love for that knowledge to be shared collaboratively. You know, CLA, you're talking about the journey you've been on. I know Finn's been on a journey around peer work, and Mike has been on a very long journey. YMYW is 30 years old, something like that, of, you know, peer work. So there is so much knowledge in this sector, and we need to bring that together and collaborate. And then, you know, funding is vital, but what can organisations do with what they've got, knowing that there's people you can draw upon? You don't have to do it all on your own. There's people who've been walking this journey for a long time.
Are there any more questions or comments from the room, or
We've got a
online
question online, and I'm going to use the opportunity to have a bit of a whinge about the blue card system, just for a change. The question is, does the department see value in having parent peer workers join to help reduce the number of children in care? And I want to add on to that my own question, which is, given the fact that the blue card system has now made it almost impossible for parents like me to continue doing any form of social work, because they've now decided that if we have ever had child safety experience, we don't automatically get our blue card renewed anymore. I've been waiting 6 months and haven't heard anything. So, so does the department see value in having us join them? And if so, what the hell are they going to do to make sure we can? Anybody?
I'm just jumping back in, it's Jenny, to say that we've got lots of questions on this screen, and questions being sent into people's phones. So the engagement is huge. We will collate them and figure out how to keep this conversation going. We said it was going to be chaotic, but I think it's been energetic. I do welcome, though, that the question that Laura raised, if there were anyone in the room wishing to have a reflection about how they see value in having the parent peer workers doing work in the child safety space.
Hello, my name's Nikita, so I work for the Benevolent Society. Part of our job, we do FIS, so the Family Intervention Service with Child Safety. Child Safety in Mermaid Beach recently reached out to us and they wanted to collaborate with us on a program. They had, really long story short, they just had some babies come into care, like an influx of babies that came into care, and they wanted for the parents to have the contact supervision, but for it to be more intentional. So myself and my manager, we developed a bit of a program, and it's mainly to help upskill the parents, learn some skills that they can, work towards getting baby back into their care. So I have started running that program. We're in week 2, and so far it's been a really, really beautiful space. I really love working with the parents. Like, I'm down on the floor, working with them in the live moment when they have the baby, so we can make the connection of them recognising even babies' cues has been really helpful to them, which is some feedback that we've had, so they can actually help understand the baby's needs. And also, I'm just having those conversations about what they actually need and how they can feel supported. And I think it's also helpful having child safety there as well, because we can feed that straight back to them. But I think it's something that we want to collaborate with more child safety officers on with this program. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you so much. Tony, did you want to?
I'm just saying, for the early intervention, how about we also provide care for have the parents, if the child has a disability, it doesn't matter, the child is still perfect in the parent's eyes. Because I'm living experience, I have 2 nonverbal kids with severe ASD, and they don't like change and all this, but when they're home, they are angels to me. But then they go back to resi care and, yeah, say no more.
Thank you, Tony. I believe we have an answer thank you from the department for the original question.
Sorry, I didn't know what the original question was, but hello everyone. Hi. My name's Kathy. I'm here as a representative of the Queensland Parents Advisory Committee. I'm sorry, I'm just about losing my voice today. I wanted to say a couple of things. I do work for child safety. I wanted to acknowledge the experts in the fishbowl this morning. It was really fantastic to hear from you and to have the courage to sit here and talk to all of us. It was really important to hear your voices. I also wanted to say I had the privilege of attending the parent advocacy graduation at the end of last year, so I think I met some of you there, and it was really great to hear your stories and your voices. So I wanted to also just talk about the Walking with Dads program, because it is very much an up and running program in the Sunshine Coast region and in Caboolture Child Safety Service Centre. It's not being funded. We're very passionate about the Walking with Dads program. It does do work directly with fathers and achieve some really great outcomes. So I just wanted to correct the record on that. The other thing that I wanted to say, I'm very passionate about parent advocates. We've been running a program in the Brisbane and Moreton Bay region for a couple of years where we have emerging leaders have a session with parent advocates. So it's part of a 12-month program they do as they're building towards becoming a Child Safety Service Centre manager. And similar to the carers, they say that it's the best session of the whole program. It's the one that they get the most out of, they talk the most about, and it's really been of huge benefit because they go into manager roles and they have heard those voices and the stories from parent advocates. So very committed, really keen to talk a little bit more about some of the ideas raised today. I particularly like the idea about parent advocates working with parents when we are working towards reunification. So I think that would be great to do some more talking about that. So just to acknowledge as well all the people with lived experience in the room, thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to come today and to hear your voices and to hear your stories. We have heard them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just respond to the blue card stuff, Laura, because that has been my world in the carer space for the last 6 months, and so and I know the impact that it's having on not just carers but on parents in the community as well. And this is a perfect reason when we talk about the need for a parent advocate. We know that Blue Card Services has the expert panel that help make decisions around those complex ones, and in those expert panels should be a representative of a parent advocate. To think that we are entering into a world where perhaps parents or anyone that has had an adverse or difficult past is not able to then work in the sector is really, really scary. And I don't think we realised the impact of these legislative changes. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that I think this is a perfect example of why you need parent advocates, and particularly in that blue card space.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Thank you again, everyone. We've run out of time for our discussion. Jenny, over to Jenny now with the final words of the room.
We knew it. That was good, Star. We knew it was going to be a bit chaotic. We knew we were going to run out of time. I'm so proud and thrilled that we opened the discussion. So please keep it going. Know where we are. Get in touch with us. Have a cuppa when we break. I just, as well as thanking you, I want to reflect on that theme of together with parents. And I had a conversation with one of the group yesterday about how grateful we should be about people who've laid the path before us. And I look back, Patrick, you were doing past, present and future as well. But when I look back, and not many people will know this, but it's nearly 20 years ago, in 2007, that a group of people got together for parents here in Brisbane, and it was to hold Australia's first ever Family Inclusion Network roundtable. So people from around Australia started that, and 20 years later, some of them are still, that we know well, are still advocating in this space. So we do owe them a debt of gratitude of laying the path. And while we're still trying to find the answer to, Gretchen, your question of what will it take, it's important that we keep at it. The movement has been getting traction. This room is huge. The engagement and the passion is huge. The group, the movement is growing. We've got parent committees at ministerial level in Queensland and in South Australia. We've got a Charter of Rights for Parents in Queensland and in Western Australia. In Queensland, new CSOs must do training with Finn and parent members, and people in the room deliver that, and we're responsible for creating that, co-creating that. So stuff is happening, not fast enough. That was, I think, your comment to Gretchen. We'll try and do better. So that the inquiry is really trying to, this is my reading of it, it's probably, might not be right, it's really trying to look for resources and new ways and practical, cost-effective solutions to, we're all after the same thing, and here in this room and online are those powerful resources, and we know about some of those new ways. When you are looking at the cost-effective, practical solutions, I tell you what, get a group of parents together who have been impacted by systems, who've been devalued by systems. That's where you get surprising solutions that you hadn't thought about. So we've been talking about doing it as a community. That is the answer, and I really hope that we're here next year for the 20 years of that round table in Brisbane to recognise all the efforts that have gone into this. So hopefully see you there.
Thank you, Jenny. I just wanted to close out my time today on the mic with a few words about words, actually. Words have great power. They can bring a person to their knees or lift them up to incomprehensible heights. They also have the power to completely destroy someone's life. I've had the great honour over the last 2.5 years of serving on a committee of parents dedicated to bringing about positive change in the child safety system, and words hold great weight here. We have all shared our battle stories with one another over the years, and many themes run consistently throughout these stories. One of which is the prevalence of child safety peppering affidavits with false allegations and then relying upon those claims to remove children from loving parents. It's here and in many other versions of this issue that words really matter a great deal. Before I experienced this myself, I was under the impression that if you had involvement with child safety, then you must be doing something wrong. Boy, did I learn the hard way how wrong I was. All I was trying to do was trying to keep my girls and myself alive while running away from a monster, their father. I fought like hell and got them home after 6 months, but even 3 years later, the pain is still raw. A hard day for a CSO is often the worst day of a parent's life. The very core of our identity is fractured. The child may eventually be returned, but nothing is ever the same. Their sense of security is shattered, and our memories as a family are forever tainted. I've met many people along this journey and have noticed two main types of people working in the sectors of families, children and domestic violence. Those who genuinely care and will do anything to help people in need, and those who may have come in with good intentions but are now just cogs on the well-oiled machine that is the government and its departments. So today I ask anyone who holds the power to change families' lives, for better or for worse, please choose your words wisely, and most importantly, use your power for good, because we're all counting on you. When I joined the committee, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I've been really pleasantly surprised to see how dedicated our allies are to working with parents and really hearing what we have to say. I can't emphasise enough how important and productive it is when parents are included in the conversation. There's no limit to what can be achieved if we all work together. Thank you.
And again. Yeah. Thank you, Star. You're all incredible. You're incredible. It's fabulous work. Thank you for everyone coming along today and the effort and excitement that is put into it. The allies from the past, the future and the present. Thank you to the Director General and to the Department for supporting Finn for the last 10 years. Thank you to our speakers, our artist. Mate, that is incredible. How do you do that? And all our contributors online. The Menti screen for those online, it is full and we're going to leave it open, so please do put any last comments in there. We commit to putting those in a newsletter or a bit of a wrap-up and not leaving your words unseen. And I want to finish with saying happy Global Parents' Day, belated by 9 days. So happy Global Day of Parents. And again, thank you online for the people who are patient and joined us. We'll say goodbye to those online and to the broadcast now, but I would love to keep you in the room for another couple of minutes, those of you who are in the room. So thanks to those online.